Hello everyone, how are you doing today? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to be going through the selling process. Now if you're ready to sell and start on your next adventure, it's best to know what to expect at each stage of the process. This can make a significant difference on how smoothly it goes or how rough it goes. So today I'm going over the timeline from closing on a house, which usually starts with listing of your home. We're going to break it down into simple steps so you know exactly what to expect. Now the buying process and the selling process is similar through some steps, the ending usually because you both end up at the closing table, but the beginning is definitely different, so let's start there. The first thing you want to think about is before the listing, before the preparation of the home, you want to get your ideas for success in order. You want to establish that timeline. Are you going to decide to sell first or buy first? Maybe it's your second home or vacation home and you don't have to worry about this, but if it is, it's a big deal. So you need to decide, what is your time frame? Are you going to be in a hurry to sell because you've already bought a place? Or are you going to sell and then rent and then go buy something? Or did you already buy a place and now you're just selling? You need to decide what order that you want to do that in so that you can have your purchase plans in order. Now, if you're going to have a tight deadline, sometimes that can make it where you're not able to sell for as much as you want. If you're more flexible on your timeline, then that's going to leave room for you to negotiate more or be more firm on your price and your terms than if you need to get going. Now, like I said, if you're not buying and you're not moving, it's definitely going to make the difference. I encourage you, if you are able, to buy something first, move out completely, and have a vacant home for you to list for sale. Whether that includes staging and all that stuff, that's a different point. But it's best to have a home vacant so it's easy to show. People can get in there whenever they want to look at it. So that's also very important. You also want to think about the moving process when you get ready to sell it. If you decide to stay in the home, that's important for you to think about too, and your timeline with actually moving versus selling the home. So the next step is going to be actually preparing your home for sale once you decided if you're going to sell first or buy first or what your next step is going to be. Preparation is key for listing the home. Before putting it on the market, before you even contact your real estate agent, you want to clean and declutter and make repairs. I can't tell you how many homes that I've gone into people won't even consider because it's so dirty and it hasn't been maintained for so long. You can walk into a home and tell that it's been well maintained. So you want to get taken care of any delayed maintenance, box up anything that you don't need. Knickknacks, mementos, all that stuff can go away. On-season clothes, anything that you don't need in the next 3 months, you need to put away. Whether that goes in the garage or a closet or even better, a storage place away from the home so that nobody even sees it. You want to get any delayed maintenance done, the things that you've been meaning to do on your honey list, maybe even have a pre-listing inspection so they can catch any issues so that you can completely say your house is move-in ready. That's the best way to go. You can think about if you want to stage it or add more curb appeal to make it more appealing to a buyer, but the more important thing is cleaning and decluttering and repairs. You want it to be in working order because you're going to more than likely be filling out a seller property disclosure, and in that it specifically says, do you know of anything that's not working? It's going to ask if you've made any improvements to the property in the years that you did those so that the buyer is aware of those. You want to be set up so you can help sell it faster and for a better price. If you do all these things, it's going to make a huge difference. The buyer is going to see the efforts that you made. Now this step can take a few days if it's a vacation home or not full-time, or a few months depending on how much you've accumulated like me or how much delayed maintenance you have. So that's why it's important to do it before you get ready to list your home for sale so that you can go ahead and get those pictures right away. Now that you've got your house prepped for sale inside and out, it's time to sign the papers and get it listed. You want to find out which realtor you want to work with, whether that means interviewing a couple or working with the one that you bought your home with or getting recommendations from friends and family. They will work to analyze any recent sales and houses on the market and give you a comparative market analysis so that you know what to price your house at. They're going to use information from the MLS to make sure that they're using valuable information to get it right as the first time so you don't have to go through price reductions or wait for more showings to happen. You do want to price your home competitively at the beginning. That is a very important piece because that's the biggest time when you're going to get it seen by the most people, in that first 30 days on the market. So you want to price it right the first time. You will get a wider pool of qualified buyers, and a realtor that works well is going to expedite that selling process for you and take the stress off you. Now, once you get it listed and you sign that paperwork with agreement on the price and the commission and the time period, they then are going to put your house on the MLS and promote it through a dozen different channels, more than a dozen, about 50 different websites that it's going to go on by going on the MLS, including probably that realtor's website. And by having done that cleaning and cluttering already, they can, at that listing appointment, go ahead and get the videos and the pictures and the sign and the lockbox up, everything up, so that they can go ahead and start getting realtors into the house and getting the house properly marketed and buyers into the house. Now, currently our average time on the market is about 90 days, depending on exactly where your location is within the Tri-County area. Now, that's going to change by if you're out in the country or you're in the town, changes to the market, seasonal, depending on the condition of your home and what you have done to prepare the property, if you've done that cleaning and decluttering. So obviously, if any of those changes, it could cause a longer time on the market. Now, throughout the listing process, your responsibility as a seller is to be prepared for those showings and do your best to be flexible. I know you have a life to live. You may have kids in the home or animals in the home that you have to take care of. Do your best to keep the house in showable condition. We try to give you as much notice as possible. Obviously, there's going to be times that you just can't do a showing, and we understand that. Like I said, you have to live in the house that you're selling. But do your best to be flexible so that we can get as many people into the house as possible. The agent that you're working with will handle all the inquiries and get all this showing scheduled up. And so if you have specific times of the day that are best, that would be a great way so they didn't have to contact you every time. But they're still going to let you know, so you can do like a 5-minute pickup before you leave the house with your dog and go on a walk. So listing process can be longer than 90 days. That's just the average time on the market right now. Now that you've got it started in the showing process, you're probably going to start receiving offers. One thing I want you to understand is that showings have become different. If you haven't sold your house in the last 5-10 years, it's a much different process than it used to be. It used to be you listed the house, you put an open house up, you got buyers coming in. Now most people don't necessarily do that. They're going to look at it online first. They're going to look at the pictures, hopefully look for a virtual tour, get an idea of the house, maybe do a drive-by, see the location within the neighborhood and the community, and then they'll schedule a showing with a real estate agent. So you're not going to get as much showings as you used to be because of all the availability of everything online. The more showings you get, though, the more offers you're going to get. It's just economics. So you want to make sure once you get an offer that you review each offer carefully. Usually when I get an offer, I go through it and just pick out the important parts like inspection, survey, and if they got a loan, so that I can highlight the features to you when I talk to you on the phone. But you do want to look through it very detailed and make sure there's anything that you're concerned about, and make sure to ask your real estate agent, realtor, about those questions so they can further explain it to you. Make sure that you look beyond the price. Do they have a contingency? Do they have to sell their house first? How long is it going to take them to close? Is it going to be 60, 90, 120 days? Are they getting a loan? Have they been pre-approved? Do they want a survey and an inspection and a termite policy? So all of that's going to add up to you as a seller and take away from your bottom line. So you do want to make sure that you look at all those considerations. Your realtor will help you negotiate to the best of possible terms for you. And that's again where we use the MLS to see what other things have sold for since maybe your listing, if the market has changed. And remember, if you get into a situation where there are multiple offers, that's not really what we're at right now. Sometimes we'll see it, but it's way less than it used to be. We always ask for the highest and best offer because highest isn't necessarily best. You could have a $120,000 offer that's asking for you to pay for 10 things, or a cash offer that's 110 and can close tomorrow. So you just got to decide what's more important, time, money, or actually what you walk away with. So right now we are probably getting about 5 to 10% off of the list price on offers. We sometimes get multiple offers. More often we're getting buyers that are asking for the seller to pay for their closing costs and a little bit of negotiation off the price, either or. Sometimes we get both, but usually one or the other. But then the seller always has the opportunity to reject, accept, or counter an offer. And that can be for many reasons that you don't like the offer, but we'll go back to them, and then it puts it in the buyer's hands to decide what to do. I always encourage sellers to do a counteroffer and not reject an offer. Once you've accepted an offer, your house will be under contract. Now, as a seller, you can decide whether you want to continue to show the property and take backup offers, or you just want to wait for that offer to go through its contingencies, and then if that falls apart, then you can start showing it again. Acceptance of the offer starts many time periods. The first one is going to be if the buyer has offered earnest money. They have to have it within 3 days into either the escrow account of the listing agency or the title company. You also have to have the seller property disclosure to the buyer within 3 days of acceptance if they don't already have it. Most of the time we put it on the MLS so it's available to anybody who wants to make an offer, so they've already got it and we don't have to worry about it. Now, the seller property disclosure does have 3 parts now, so once you accept an offer, you'll have to sign it again saying that you haven't made any changes to the house since you listed the property. The other timeline that also starts after acceptance is the buyer has 10 business days from acceptance to do their inspection. Not only to do the inspection, but also get the report and provide you a list of repairs. Now, if they do not get this done in the 10 days and they do not provide you a list of repairs, the buyer is accepting the property as is. That is what is stated in the real estate contract. So as a buyer's agent, they do their best to make sure that the buyer follows that timeline. We can extend it if the seller allows us to, because sometimes when we get really busy, inspectors get behind. But I think we have enough in the market right now that that's not an issue anymore. Now, if they do make a list of repairs, after that 10 days, you have 5 days to respond to that list of repairs. You're going to notify them that you received the list, and then you have to decide whether you're going to make the repairs, if you're going to not make any repairs, or if you're going to do some of the repairs. Or another choice is to offer them a credit. Either you can have quotes done to find out how much it actually would be to make all the repairs, or just make up a random number and say, will you take this? And then that's just taken off the closing statement as a credit so that the buyer has less to bring to closing. So this due diligence part, where the buyer's doing a survey and inspection and appraisal, is just really a waiting game for you. The selling agent tries to keep the listing agent up to date on where their buyer is in the process, and we as a listing agent try to keep you updated. But usually during this time period, they're just working with their bank to get any documents updated, as well as doing that due diligence. So it can be a kind of a stressful time period because you're just sitting and waiting for all this to happen. But it does make it part of a smooth sale process so that the buyer is actually getting something that they understand what they're getting and any issues that they have with the house. So another great time for this to be as a seller, if you are still in the home, this is when you want to be working on packing, figure out where you're going, making sure everything's set up so you do have somewhere to go once you get to the closing table. Once the buyer has finished all their due diligence, we're ready to close. We've got the appraisal back, the termites done, the inspection's done. When you sign the original real estate contract, there's a closing date in there. That is the date that the property is to be closed. That's the date that both the buyer and seller agreed to. And it can only be changed if both the buyer and seller agree to it again. This is sometimes changed just because people didn't realize. Sometimes we accidentally put a weekend on there and the closing company is not open. Sometimes the lender doesn't have all the final documents and the numbers ready. Sometimes the seller doesn't have anywhere to go to and they got to push the date back, or the place they're buying had to push their date back. So there's a lot of reasons that a closing date would be changed. Usually it's only a few days different. Sometimes it can be a lot different since there's a major issue. A major repair has to be made before the closing can happen. Now, the closing is where the final paperwork is signed. That's where the deed is signed, where the final numbers are signed, and where the buyer actually brings their money, or the lender brings the money. And so the buyer will ensure that everything is agreed upon has been done. If they ask for repairs, they'll do the final walkthrough, make sure it's clean and ready to move in. The seller will have to sign wet sign, which means they have to sign in person, because that is what our county courthouse requires. So if you're not going to physically be at the closing table, the closing company can email you the documents to sign, but you will then have to print them out and take them to a notary and sign them and then overnight them back. So you need to know that that is going to be required of you as a seller to actually have those signed. Now, if you don't have a way to print out an email, lots of people don't have printers, it can be faxed to you, or they will just send it overnight to you so you can receive it and then go and get it signed. Now, it needs to be overnight back, because lenders have specific timelines. Now, if it's a cash buyer, it doesn't make as much difference, but obviously they're gonna want the deed back and show that they own the property. So it is still, time is of the essence. So you need to do your best to get the documents back in a timely manner. So once they get that deed back and the buyer has paid, then it's recorded at the courthouse, and then it's officially sold, and you can pass that on to the buyer. Possession of the property on the buyer, you get your money, they have a mortgage, or they have a house free and clear, and everyone is happy. Now, possession is another thing beyond the closing. If you look at your real estate contract, it says closing is the date and time where the documents are signed and the funds are paid. Now, if you both don't go to the closing table, then that date and time can be kind of sketchy. But I want you to understand, as a seller, when you go to sign the paperwork, the intention is for you to hand over the keys. You don't go to closing at 9 o'clock in the morning and then go back home and pack up your boxes and pack your truck and move. Once you hand those keys over, once you sign those documents, closing is done. So if you have a problem with signing your paperwork and not knowing that that lender is going to pay the payment that day and you're going to get the money in your bank that day before you load up that moving truck, then we need to do something like a delayed occupancy. Even if that means that you're going to close in the afternoon, maybe that makes you feel better. Usually the title company will call and set up a time with you, make sure it's okay with you that you can come to closing. But it is important to understand that that's how the contract is worded, that the possession is at closing. That at closing means at the closing table, the date and time that you sign the documents. So you need to be prepared to have everything out of the property and ready for the buyer to walk in as soon as that closing is done and the paperwork has been signed. Now, with a delayed occupancy, there are some liability issues, because once you sign that paperwork, now you're no longer an owner of that home. You are a tenant in that property, and so there are risks and benefits to both. If you want to wait and make sure you have your money, I understand that, but it also can be a concern for insurance providers, because you no longer have anything protecting your personal property. If a tree falls on the house, if a tornado comes and your stuff's gone away, that's all things to think about, and you would definitely want to talk to your insurance provider if you decide to do a delayed occupancy. But I just want you to know it's an option that's available. Selling a house can be a complex process, but by understanding the timeline and partnering with a knowledgeable realtor, you can navigate it confidently. If you're considering selling your home, I encourage you to subscribe for valuable real estate insights and the resources we have available on our channel. Remember, with the right preparation and guidance, you can achieve a successful and stress-free sale. Make sure to check out the link in the description below for the Home Seller's Guide to walk you through this timeline when you're ready to put your house on the market. Thanks for watching, and have a blessed day.